Here we are going to study the anatomy of forebrain in animals. So, forebrain, what is this forebrain? If we will see the brain, generally we find three structures which are formed by the three primary vesicles. Like prosencephalon is forebrain, which consists of this structure. Then we have midbrain or mesencephalon, and finally the hindbrain. Now, this forebrain or prosencephalon is further divided into two parts. One is telencephalon, which is nothing but cerebrum. This is the cerebrum region, and diencephalon, which has further two types, thalamus and hypothalamus. This telencephalon, or we can say cerebrum, can be divided into cerebral cortex. What is this cerebral cortex? This is the region from this to this part. This is cerebral cortex. Then we have rhinencephalon. What is this rhinencephalon? If we will see the ventral structure of brain, this particular area is rhinencephalon, which is generally responsible for olfaction. And the third thing which constitute the cerebrum is basal ganglia. What are these basal ganglia? These are the accumulation of cell bodies inside the cerebrum. So this cerebrum constitutes of three things. First is cerebral cortex, which is nothing but the sulci and gyri, rhinencephalon, which is the ventral part where we have olfactory lobe, olfactory stria, and other things which we will study in detail. And finally, we will having basal ganglia inside the cerebrum, which are nothing but a collection of cell bodies. And in diencephalon, as the name suggests, two brains, like that is thalamus and hypothalamus. If we will see internal structure of brain, we can see this particular part of the cerebrum is the frontal lobe. In the lateral, we have parietal lobe. Upper to the ear, we have temporal lobe, and back we have occipital lobe, and in the ventral end we have limbic lobe also. Now let us study one by one. Let us study first cerebral cortex. What is the cerebral cortex? Cerebral cortex is nothing but it is the region which is formed by the convolutions that are gyri and sulci. If you will see, this is a typical cerebrum where you are seeing these convulsions. These convulsions or ridges are gyri, and the depressions here are sulci. So these elevations are the gyrus and the depressions are sulcus. So these form the cerebral cortex. This region is the cerebral cortex of cerebrum. As I said, also this is the frontal lobe, parietal, temporal, and occipital. Okay. Now cerebrum hemisphere, there are in cerebrum we find two hemispheres. Like this is the one hemisphere and this is the other hemisphere. These hemispheres are separated by a horizontal, we can say, a fissure. And in this horizontal fissure, there is a layer of dura mater which fits into it, that is falx cerebri, and it extends to corpus callosum. Now what is corpus callosum? Corpus callosum is nothing but it is a commissural fiber. What are these commissural fibers? If somebody will ask you what are these commissural fibers, so commissural fibers are those fiber which connects two identical parts of cerebrum. These are the two identical parts which are connected by these commissural fibers, and this is nothing but corpus callosum. There are other commissural fibers also like fornix, but corpus callosum is the biggest one among that. Okay. Now let us study about this corpus callosum. As I said, it is the largest mass of commissural fiber that connects two cerebral hemispheres. If this is one cerebral hemisphere and this is other cerebral hemisphere, so both of these are connected by these fibers, and these fibers are known as commissural fibers. Now you can see this is the sagittal section of a brain. Here is this green portion is nothing but corpus callosum. Here you can also see. In the dorsal end it is convex, and in the ventral end it is concave. Dorsal is away from the ground and ventral is towards the ground or away from the sky. Now this corpus callosum is divided into four areas. This particular area which bends towards the tail, it is the anterior end and it is the posterior end. So the end which bends towards the caudal end is known as rostrum. It is the anterior end, but it bends towards the tail, caudal end. So it is the rostrum and the corpus callosum, which where the area or the region at which corpus callosum take a bend towards the tail, that is known as genu. And from genu to the next bend is known as body or truncus. And finally, where the corpus callosum takes a bend in the posterior region, that region is known as splenium. So there are four regions. First one is rostrum, then we have genu, then body or truncus, then finally splenium. Okay. Now, what is this septum pellucidum? It is sometimes asked. Like, I will tell you about the pathway of cerebrospinal fluid in the upcoming lectures, where I will tell you about the ventricles and other things. So there are ventricles in brain. What are these ventricles? They are nothing but they are the cavities. They are cavities. So there are two cavities in the cerebrum which is visible here. These are the lateral ventricles, and these lateral ventricles are separated by a septa, or we can say a septum. And this septum which separates two lateral ventricles is known as septum pellucidum. Like here you can also see. Why I am telling this thing? Because it is posterior to the corpus callosum. It is the septum pellucidum which originates from here, and it divides the lateral ventricles. And this is the this would be the third ventricle maybe, and this would be the fourth ventricle, I guess. So but you have to remember, septum pellucidum is nothing but a septa which divides two lateral ventricles. Now, corpus callosum was also the part of cerebrum as well as this cerebral cortex. Now let us now study about hippocampus. What is this hippocampus? Hippocampus is nothing but it is an invagination of cerebral cortex in the temporal part of cerebrum. Okay, it is a S-shaped thing. Like if you will see in this diagram, where is hippocampus? This region is the hippocampus. This is S-shaped. If you will see, this is S-shaped region in the temporal region, hippocampus. It is the part of limbing system. If we will remove, you know why hippocampus is named so? Because if we remove hippocampus, it would resemble like seahorse. That's why it's named so. Now, how we can dissect or how we can take out hippocampus? In the former lectures, I told you about pyriform lobes. If we will cut the lateral end of pyriform lobes in the third ventricle, I guess, then we would get the hippocampus. Okay. What is the significance of this hippocampus? It has a role in memory. So where is the location of hippocampus? In the temporal part of cerebral cortex. So it is also the part of cerebrum. Okay. Now what is this fornix? Fornix is nothing but it is also commissural fibers which connects two identical parts of cerebral hemisphere. It is C-shaped, and it is from where to where? It is from hippocampus to mammillary body. Like if you will see this diagram, this is the mammillary body, and this, as you can see, where is the hippocampus? Hippocampus would be this C-shaped region. So it is from mammillary body to hippocampus. This whole commissural fiber is nothing but fornix. Now let me tell you about rhinencephalon. Rhinencephalon, as it is the ventral end of the brain. In rhinencephalon constitute of olfactory bulb, this region, medial olfactory stria, this is the medial, like towards the middle junction, and this is the lateral olfactory stria, and these are pyriform lobe. What are these pyriform lobe? Comma shaped. Okay, so pyriform lobe, olfactory stria and olfactory bulb constitute rhinencephalon, which is responsible for olfaction. Olfactory bulbs are nothing but they are elongated structures, as you can see in the anterior ventral. This is the ventral part of brain, like towards the ground, and it is the anterior part where you can find this. Now these olfactory stria, this one is the medial towards the medial end, this would be the lateral one is little longer than the medial one. Now this triangular surface which get formed here is nothing but trigonum olfactorium. So if teacher will ask you in practicals where is trigonum olfactorium, you will show the region between the two olfactory stria. What are these two olfactory stria? Medial olfactory stria and lateral olfactory stria. Now the third thing in the telencephalon or cerebrum is the basal ganglia. Actually, ganglia word and nuclei word, these are the two similar words. Nuclei is a collection of cell bodies in CNS, and ganglia are the collection of cell body in PNS. So here in case of cerebrum it is a misnomer. It should be basal nuclei, but we call it basal ganglia. Now what is basal ganglia? It is the subcortical intracerebral. Subcortical means inside the cerebrum, and intracerebral means inside the cerebrum, between the cortex of the cerebrum, cerebral cortex. It is gray matter. What is this gray matter? A collection of cell bodies, as mentioned here also. It is a collection of cell body inside the cerebral cortex. Okay, what is basal ganglia? It is nothing but the collection of cell body inside the cerebrum. So they are not visible out from the outside. So there are three things which constitute these basal ganglia. What are these? First one is corpus striatum. Some people say basal ganglia and corpus striatum are similar, but that's not true. Corpus striatum along with amygdaloid body and colostrum forms the basal ganglia. Now this corpus striatum is further divided into two structures, caudate nucleus and lentiform nucleus. Now what is this caudate nucleus and lentiform nucleus? If you will see, it is the diagram of basal ganglia I have made here. This is the head of the caudate nucleus. This is thalamus. This is what? This is lentiform nucleus. So this is caudate nucleus. This is lentiform nucleus. So this caudate nucleus and lentiform nucleus makes what? This thing is what? Corpus striatum. And this is the colostrum. And from this head of caudate nucleus, there is another structure which originates, that is amygdaloid body. So three structures are completed. These two structures are nothing but corpus striatum. And corpus striatum has further two structures, caudate nucleus and lentiform nucleus. Now this lentiform nucleus, as you can see in the diagram, is further divided into two things. If the medial one is the globus pallidus and the lateral one is putamen. Lateral one is putamen and the medial one is globus pallidus. See, you might think that this particular knowledge which I am providing you is tough to remember, to understand, but it is not tough to understand. It is very easy to understand. Now what you have to do, you have to make sketch of these things by your own. After some time you will love it. Firstly, to learn anatomy you should love it, then only you can have it on your tips. Okay, so what I said, basal ganglia has three parts: corpus striatum, amygdaloid body and colostrum. This is the colostrum. Corpus striatum is further divided into caudate nucleus. This is caudate nucleus and lentiform nucleus. Lentiform nucleus is further divided into lateral putamen and medial globus pallidus. Now, if we will see in a sagittal section, we will find this lateral ventricle. This is nothing but caudate nucleus, and this is the amygdaloid body. This is thalamus. So amygdaloid body forms the part of limbic system. As you can see, this is the caudate nucleus and this is nothing but amygdaloid body. And this is the putamen, and what would be this? Globus pallidus. Okay. So colostrum, what is colostrum? Colostrum is also a fiber like thing which you can see. You should only know the name of these structures. Colostrum. If somebody will ask you what is colostrum, what you would say? You would say colostrum is a part of basal ganglia which is deep inside the cerebrum, and it is an accumulation of cell body or it's just gray matter. Now telencephalon has been completed, so let me recap. Telencephalon constitute of which three things? Cerebral cortex, basal ganglia and rhinencephalon. In cerebral cortex we studied about the convulsions that were gyrus and the depressions which were sulcus. If sulcus is very deep, it would be fissure. Two cerebral hemispheres are separated by horizontal fissure. Horizontal fissure has which part of dura mater? Falx cerebri. Okay. And the cerebrum is separated by the cerebellum via transverse fissure, where in which part of dura mater get attached? Answer me, baby. It is tentorium cerebelli. Okay. Now we will move to the rhinencephalon. It is in the ventral part of brain where we find olfactory lobe, Pyriform lobe, olfactory stria. Olfactory stria are two. One is towards the medial end, other is towards the lateral end. And that bit the space between these two stria is trigonum olfactorium. I am just telling you orally so that you can get a broader picture. Close your eyes and just recap with me, okay? Third one is basal ganglia. Basal ganglia has three structures. The first one is caudate nucleus. Second one is which thing? I forget to. Yes, it's amygdaloid body. Third one is colostrum. Caudate nucleus is further divided into. Sorry, what was the name of the structure? Corpus striatum is further divided into caudate nucleus and lentiform nucleus. This caudate nucleus, now this lentiform nucleus is further divided into two. What are these? Lateral putamen and medial globus pallidus. Okay, so these were the things which comprises the telencephalon or cerebrum. Now let us move towards the diencephalon. Now this diencephalon constitute of thalamus and hypothalamus. If you will see, this is the region of diencephalon which constitute of thalamus and hypothalamus. Thalamus is the largest part of diencephalon. Now if you would see, these are the chunks of cerebellum. These are the chunks of cerebellum. These are nothing but a group of gray matter, or we can say a mass of gray matter, a mass of cell bodies. This is thalamus. And in the posterior end of thalamus, we find pineal gland. And in the anterior end, we find a sheet of gray matter which constitute of hypothalamus. And behind this, or we can say beneath this, we find a pituitary gland connected to the hypothalamus via infundibulum, and this infundibulum is connected to the hypothalamus via tuber cinereum. Then we have midbrain, pons, medulla. You can also say that pineal gland is between the thalamus and colliculi, superior colliculi. So let's study first thalamus. Let me see, as I said earlier also, you can understand anatomy only via diagrams. So anatomy should not be taught on the board. Either it should be taught on a real cadaver, otherwise it should have some great pictures. Otherwise you would not get a feel, you would not get a love towards the anatomy. Because our brain has three structures: sensory, intermediate, and the third one is motor. Like if we like someone, or if we love someone, how we love someone? When we see someone, we get a sensation. Then our intermediate neurons tells us that this sensation is similar to a memory. Then that sensation and memory get accumulated and transferred to our motor area. Then this motor area transfers this particular emotion towards our behavior. This is how brain works. So similarly, you have to do with this subject. You have to make the memory via your hippocampus in a proper manner so that you can build a command over this subject. So let us move towards the thalamus. Thalamus is a mass of gray matter and it is a collection of cell bodies. So thalamus have two structures, right and left thalami. And the space between two thalami have what thing? Third ventricle in it. And third ventricle is connected with the lateral ventricle via foramen of Monro, and third ventricle is connected to the fourth ventricle via cerebral aqueduct. You might seem, it might seem tough, but in the upcoming lectures I will tell you the pathway of cerebrospinal fluid. As I also said, pineal gland is ovoid gland and it is at the dorsal end in a depression between the thalamus and corpora quadrigemina. This is the dorsal end, and this is pineal gland is between thalamus and which thing? Superior colliculi. Okay, and this particular thalamus is present on the dorsal side of cerebral peduncle. Like these are the cerebral peduncles, which are the part of midbrain, which we are going to cover in the upcoming lectures. So in the dorsal end, you are finding nothing but thalamus, and what these thalamus are nothing but a group of gray matter, or we can say a mass of gray matter constituted by cell bodies. Okay, now finally, what is this hypothalamus? It is nothing but it is a sheet of gray matter from thalamus. You can see this is the thalamus, and from this thalamus a sheet is originating, and this is pituitary gland. This sheet is known as thalamus. This sheet is known as thalamus, and we have this pituitary gland. This is infundibulum. Okay, and this layer would might be what thing? Diaphragm cilia. This is hypothalamus. Sheet. It's a kind of sheet. So this was all about the anatomy of telencephalon as well as diencephalon, or accumulation forebrain. So I completed forebrain in this video lecture. Revise it, repeat it, and read it. So read, repeat, and revise, or whatever you can have this. Thanks.